Hello, YouTube. It's your girl Denise, and I just want to take a second to thank all of my recent subscribers over the weekend. I did gain 4 more subscribers. That doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm very thankful. I wasn't feeling very well and had to go to the hospital, so I'm very grateful for all the love and support that I was getting while I wasn't doing my best. And I have a lot of catching up to do, so today I am covering Baddies East episodes 11 and 12. There are some things that happen in these 2 episodes that kind of changed my perspective on the show and the network as a whole. So we're gonna get into it now. Episode 11 begins with Sukiana and Sapphire literally pushing Mariah Lynn into Smiley to get her chain back. Mariah is doing all of the swinging. I'm kind of wondering why Smiley isn't swinging back, but if I had to guess, it's probably because Smiley wanted to be friends with Suki and Sapphire so bad that she doesn't want to swing on Mariah in front of them. And I think that that is like the general vibe that I'm getting from all of the girls in the house, that they just want to be Suki and Sapphire's friends so bad that nobody is speaking up or defending Smiley. But then it also doesn't help that Smiley doesn't have any real friends in the house. Now, I don't think that Smiley was getting jumped on just because it is Mariah who's doing the swinging. Nobody else is swinging on Smiley. Sukiana's just in the background and she's screaming just too much. So she's just screaming at Mariah to get her chain. And then Sapphire at first was just trying to pull the chain out of Smiley's hands. But Smiley, you could tell Smiley is so strong because both Sapphire and Mariah were trying to pull the chain out of Smiley's hand. But the both of them together couldn't even do that. So that is when Sapphire did have to put Smiley in that chokehold and kind of slam her to the ground. Was the chokehold too much? I would say probably yes, just because it's over a chain, really. It's not that serious to put someone in a chokehold. And then also adding the fact that this is the first time we see Smiley cry because she didn't even cry after her miscarriage, her alleged miscarriage. So you can just see in Smiley's face is getting to a point where it's just too much for her. So that's why I feel like this is a little too much. And we catch a glimpse of Tesehki rolling her eyes, which is directed towards Sapphire because she's doing a lot of screaming at this point. And then looking over at Camilla, she is just there, obviously regretting her life decisions and how she ended up on the show. Next, we have Natalie recording Suki and Sapphire putting the chain on Mariah. And there's just so many things that I don't understand about this scene. I don't understand why Natalie is recording and gassing up Mariah as if Mariah did anything. And then Suki is putting this chain on Mariah the way your boyfriend does when he gives you a new necklace. And then Sapphire is throwing shade from the side talking about, now you have you a real chain because Mariah's last chain was fake. So I don't know how you just helped that girl, but then you immediately start shading her. Meanwhile, Camilla goes on to check on Smiley. Production always has to send somebody to go check up on the person who has just been targeted. And we've seen Natalie do it in the case of T when nobody wanted to go and talk to T. But clearly Natalie is busy. And since Camilla was just standing there, production said, Camilla, go check on Smiley. So Smiley, she's just crying, she's screaming, she's saying she's soaked in blood and they just try to fight her. And this is how I know that Camilla is a real woman, because when Smiley is like putting her hand in her pants and trying to show her, Camilla is looking. She's looking to make sure that she's really soaked. But I don't think Camilla really saw anything because Camilla did not feel bad, not one bit, and was basically just telling Smiley like, of course you were gonna get your chain snatched after you snatched somebody else's chain, respectfully. So then Smiley is gonna go ahead and trying to send Camilla to go get her chain back for her. And I just don't understand what Smiley was probably thinking at that moment, because Camilla was not going to go do that. I don't even think Camilla even likes you like that at this point. Then the camera pans back to Mariah and Sapphire, and I was a little confused as to why Sukiana would go online and say that Mariah never thanked her and Sapphire for getting the chain back, when clearly I think Mariah here is giving her props. She says, shout out to a real bitch, thank you to Sapphire. Suki probably didn't hear it because she's like off camera somewhere over there, but that doesn't mean that Mariah never said it. And then I don't even think that Sapphire heard it herself because she's too busy trying to collect Mariah's doll. I don't even know where this doll came from, but she picks it up and sits it on Mariah's lap and sits her down like a little child. This was just so weird. Like, I know that Mariah is small, but this lady is in her 30s, and I think that you guys are also in your 30s. So you don't need to treat her like a little girl. And then I was also surprised at tesehki's behavior in hugging Mariah for getting her chain back. I guess that she was more of Mariah's friend before they started taping the show. But she is currently sharing a room with Smiley while they're still in Philly. So with how friendly tesehki is, I would have thought she would have been more neutral about the situation, but I think she sides with Mariah here. Then the last thing I wanted to point out before I move on is that when Sapphire is giving that whole speech to Mariah, saying that even if you get your chain back from this girl, you guys are still not cool after she stole your chain. I noticed how Natalie is paying way too much attention to everything that Sapphire is saying, as if like she's taking notes on how to be more street or how to be more ratchet, because we all know that Natalie is a valley girl and she just tries so hard to portray this personality that she's just way more hood and way more street than she is. So I just thought that this was really funny. So now moving on to when the girls are on their way to the club. I just want to shout out to Reddit for already finding the coochie cutters from Shein that Rollie is wearing. I can't believe that I just now noticed that Rollie can't even button up the shorts. And this is just gross. Like she's the only girl that didn't change. And it doesn't even look like she showered before heading out to the club. And I don't understand why she's even wearing this to the club. Like this is a beach outfit at best, but it's more for you just to stay in the house. Just stay in the house with this on, Rollie. Next, Suki and Sapphire are also joining the girls at the club, but they're riding their own bus. And then we get this coochie hair stuck in teeth story from Sapphire, which I don't really care too much about the story, but I think the one thing that did stand out to me about this story was the fact that it just seemed like the guy that she was messing with at the time sounded way older than her while she was still in high school. And she keeps saying how she was young at the time, not that we were both young at the time. And he's also dead now. So she was just this just sounds like an old man to me. And then the other gag that I wanted to point out is that the editors blurred the faces of the other two friends that were in the car with Suki and Sapphire. But explain to me why they forgot to blur the reflection of their faces in the window so we clearly see who they are. And it doesn't even end there. So they kick these two girls out of the car before the car even pulls up to the club. Because you can see the friend is the girl in the white dress in front of the other car that's in this frame. And then they have the bus pull up with just Suki and Sapphire in it so they can film them coming out by themselves, which I thought that that was just ridiculous. Like we already seen these girls in the car, so just let them get out together. I like how Sapphire doesn't even bother interacting with the crowd while her and Suki are walking past the crowd, because she knows her role. She knows that she's just Suki's friend and nobody really knows who she is. I did peep that her chain does say Kendra, so if that's really her name, it sucks that she didn't stick with Kendra, because Kendra just sounds a lot better than Sapphire, and we already know a Sapphire from the cabaret. So it's just another example of when people are picking stage names that sometimes their government name is the better name to go with. But that's just my opinion. Of course, you guys can share yours in the comments below. Okay, so we're finally inside Club Noto, and here's Kat and here's Lemmy in the white hoodie. And I just find it so funny how like this man doesn't even have to show his face. I can just tell from the silhouette of his body because he's so skinny and frail that that is him. And they always try to blur his face, but there's no point. Like we know it's him. He cannot hide from me. And because he is there, I kind of feel like he masterminded this whole getting kicked out of the club situation. Let me explain. So clearly House A plus Suki and Sapphire are already there. They've had time to take pictures with fans. They've had time to take some shots. The camera pans over to DJ Sky, and she's really into her DJing, so she's been playing at least a couple of songs, it seems like. But then if you notice, House B didn't get there till much later, and it's as soon as they get in, that's when all of a sudden the club is trying to shut down. Now I did Google this club. So if you look on Google, Club Noto's hours are from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So that's a total of 4 hours that they're open. They're also only open 3 days out of the week, Thursday through Saturday. And this is important to note basically because whenever there is a production, you have someone who is the location scout. And it's exactly what the name sounds like. They go to these different locations and scout these places as options to give for production to start filming. So there's no doubt in my mind that production already knew the hours of this place. And if they needed the club to stay open for longer than what it normally does, I'm sure that Lemmy could have cut Club Noto a check or made a deal with them to stay up open longer. So if the fight at the house probably took all their time and went past the time that was expected, Lemmy made sure to at least be there and be there with House A and give them some time. But it's like as soon as House B arrives, it was time to shut down. So that's why I call BS. I feel like this was done on purpose to basically just play games with House B. I don't know whose idea it was to treat one half of the cast like they're royalty and the other half of the cast like they're like peasants or like rejects or something. I don't know. And who is to say that that's really the intention that the network is going for? But that's just like the vibes that I'm getting, especially when House B has to ride on the bus from Philly to New York the next day. But then even within House B, Smiley has been getting the less than treatment. And now it's still Biggie's turn to get the less than treatment, and I don't understand why Camilla out of nowhere is just asking Biggie how she feels about being a replacement. And I just love Biggie's confessional here. We've been saying that she's not a replacement on this channel. I'm getting tired of breaking it down, so you can just watch my previous episodes. But it really bothers me when girls like Scarface or Smiley are saying that they're getting a bad edit when the whole time that they have been on the show, they've been doing stuff to themselves to make themselves look bad. But Biggie is like the only one that I can say truly is getting a bad edit, because not only is she getting a bad edit from the editors editing her out of the scenes that she's been filming with the baddies, because she's been there since the beginning. And I even saw a clip of Biggie performing that night at that DC club where it was Anna Mac's birthday. I don't remember exactly the name of the club, but Biggie had a whole performance. And if you guys haven't heard her song, I do recommend that you go listen to it. It's actually really good. It is called La Baddies, and it is a Dominican dembow record, and it is in Spanish. Trigger warning for some people. But yeah, Biggie did perform that song at that club that night when the editors just played it off as if she kind of like popped up on them, like Sydney Star style, when she was clearly invited to come and perform. Like, that was just dumb to me. And she's not only catching it from the editor, she's catching it from her own castmates as well when they know the truth. But I just want to point out what happens after on the bus when they start playing the impersonation game. Tesehki does her impersonation of Biggie about the whole shrimp thing. And if you guys don't know, Biggie does have her own YouTube channel where she explains the open your mouth, I got the shrimp for you. So go over to her channel to go hear the full story if you haven't done so already. I just want to point out how Sky basically admits here. I know it's kind of hard to hear because Anna Mac's in the back just screaming over everybody. But Sky does let it be known that Biggie is the type to care for you and feed you. And then she's even gonna ask Biggie to make her some shrimp once they get to New York, which is why I don't understand why Sky was so quick to step up to Biggie in episode 12, but we'll talk more about it when we get there. Basically, my point is I just don't understand why these girls treat her like shit, and she's just so good to them, and she's just a generally caring, nice, loving person from the accounts of Sky herself. Switching over to House A. House A does get to ride the private plane, and we find out that it's Suki and Scarface's first time riding a private plane. And I believe that is Suki's first time because she is just chugging this Casamigos. And I would be too, because did you see how shaky that plane is? I feel like the cameraman couldn't even keep his balance, and everybody is just crammed in a little tight space on that plane. And I would be too scared to get on that plane because every time I see a private jet, I just think of Aaliyah, Kobe, even Otis Redding. So if I was House B, I wouldn't necessarily be too jealous of the girls getting to ride a private jet. Now, when the two groups arrive to New York, of course, they live in two separate houses, and both are extremely beautiful. We didn't get a shot of the backyard of House A, and I was just really trying to see if they have a pool like House B, because House B is clearly smaller, but it does have a really nice pool area. And I don't really know where these two houses are exactly. It could be Long Island because the cabaret girls were staying in Long Island. But this also kind of looks a little too bougie to be Long Island. So I'm thinking it could also be the Westchester area. But either way, it's going to be at least a good hour drive from the actual city. There is no public transportation in these parts of New York, so it does suck that the girls are being separated once again, but I'm actually really happy that we're just not fighting over rooms anymore. House B does get to visit House A, and you know, Natalie already had the pre-meeting before the actual meeting where they plan who's gonna fight who. So when House B arrives, it's like, yes, everybody is hugging each other, but Sapphire had to change her whole outfit. So Natalie probably told Sapphire that it was her turn to fight Smiley. So when Natalie opens the floor for the girls to talk, Sapphire, if you notice, tried to confront Smiley about what she was saying online, but Sapphire clearly said that she doesn't even know what was stated online. So she is relying on whatever the other girls are telling her that Smiley said to get mad at Smiley. And Smiley basically said online that she had gotten jumped by the girls. And Smiley also says that she felt somebody pulling on her neck, which was Sapphire, that she felt somebody pulling on her hair, which was Mariah, and that she felt somebody pull her skin on the side of her stomach, which I feel like was security, if I had to guess, because you know, security be injuring these girls sometimes, trying to break up the fights. And I just want to thank Scotty and Scarface for giving their opinion when nobody asked them. So Scotty says that she doesn't think that Smiley got jumped because Mariah was the only one swinging on her, which I agree with, but I just don't like you, so shut up. And then E.T.'s gonna say that Smiley is her least favorite, which just the irony in that it within itself, Scarface, you are everybody's least favorite for the most part. Now, Scarface definitely had the right message in telling Smiley that she keeps doing things to herself and putting herself in stupid situations, but she's just the wrong messenger, I think. And I wasn't feeling bad for Smiley up to this point. Interestingly enough, Smiley did admit that she was wrong, and it did sound as if had the girls just kept talking out their issues, Smiley would have eventually apologized, not only to Sukiana for texting her about taking Mariah's chain, but also apologized to Mariah for taking her chain. And here Smiley even gives back the pendant to Mariah, so I feel like whatever hostility they had against each other, that should have already been done. But Sapphire still wants to fight. And I felt like Sapphire really felt like she still had to fight Smiley because Natalie told her to do so. And Sukiana is also in on it because you can see her start to take off her shoes while Sapphire and Smiley are still arguing. We haven't gotten to fighting point yet. And Smiley doesn't even want to fight. She says it over and over again. You can see it in her face. So the fact that Sapphire keeps pressuring Smiley into fighting is making me think that, you know what? Sapphire and Sukiana probably might have taken extra money just to instigate this fight because that is how Zeus gets down. T already let it be known that after she got into her 3 fights that she got a raise. And guess what? We haven't even seen her that much on the show since. So T already made her money. There was no point in her showing up. And it's Smiley walking up to Natalie, like Natalie is her mom, to tell her that she doesn't want to fight this girl. But Natalie says, you have to fight or you're going to go home. And while we hear Smiley and Natalie's conversation, for some reason, the editor decided to include this clip of this producer lady with this orange hat instructing Sapphire and Sukiana on what to do next, which I don't know if this is just oversight from the editor. Why would the editor even include this? We can't even see Natalie in this shot. So it's stuff like this that makes me think that this is all like set up and scripted to an extent, not on Smiley's part, but on Suki and Sapphire's part. But Smiley doesn't want to go home and she puts her bag down, which at this point I'm just like, Smiley, if you do claim to be in so much pain from the miscarriage that you say that you are, I don't think this fight is worth it. I don't think being on the show is worth it when you need to put your health first because you know they'll easily replace you. This network does not care about you. And that's not just to call out Zeus, that's generally the case for most employers. And I have to call out Sapphire for this because she does run up on Smiley while Smiley is not even looking her direction. Smiley is over here talking to Scarface and Natile, which is completely not fair. And I was really not expecting this from Sapphire. She did really let me down because I was really feeling her when she first showed up. And I still like the girl. Like, she doesn't necessarily bother me too much, but this fight right here won you no points with me. This was just whack. So that is where episode 11 ends. Moving on to episode 12. The fight between Suki and Sapphire was just so underwhelming and not worth, it was just not worth even being put on the show. If I was an editor, I would have cut out this fight. I would have cut out this whole altercation because it was just dumb. I would have made it seem like Smiley said, I don't want to fight. And the end. That's just where I would have cut it off. But in this fight, Smiley wouldn't let go of Sapphire's hair. So Sukiana decided to jump in and try to get to Smiley, but it doesn't even seem like she even reaches over the security guard's shoulders. And I just feel like this whole time Suki has been waiting for Sapphire to fight because Suki instigated last fight with Sapphire and Smiley and Mariah, but she didn't jump in. She tried to, but security held her back. And since then, she's just kind of been like throwing Sapphire into these fights to fight for her. And it's not fair for Sukiana to be swinging on these girls when they can't even swing on Suki back contractually. So that's why I think that Sapphire has been in the middle of all these fights. And Natile didn't even stick around to even see this fight. She stepped away to do God knows what, and comes back and is asking the girls if it was a fair fight. And everybody's just like, it wasn't even a fight. So even after you told this girl to go home, you didn't even bother to stay around and watch the fight. And then the camera cuts to DJ Sky and T walking in together to meet up with the girls, and you can see behind DJ Sky's shoulder that the clock says 7:01. How I already missed the summer when it could be 7 o'clock and the sun was still outside. But that's not why I'm bringing up the time, because you guys already know me and you already know that of course I went back to look at the time that House B arrived, and that clock said 6:58. So either this whole fight lasted 3 minutes, and I'm trying so hard not to crack up right now. So this whole fight lasted 3 minutes, or they could have held T and DJ Sky indoors until it was safe to bring them outside. But I don't think so, because as Scarface is asking Tesehki for an apology for mocking her online, and of course Tesehki was mocking her because she was defending Krishan at the time, Tesehki at first didn't feel like she had to apologize, and she did even take off her purse and give it to Anna as if she was about to start fighting what's her name? Scarface, I keep forgetting her name. Which honestly, I feel like the only reason why Tesehki didn't fight Scarface right then and there is because Suki and Sapphire are trying to calm Tesehki down and stop her from fighting. And mind you, like, all the girls in this cast want to be their friend. So I can see that being the reason why Tesehki did not swing on Scarface. So Tesehki did apologize, and now her and Scarface start hugging, and then you see everybody celebrating and hugging. So back to my original point. So this is when T and DJ Scar walk in. They already see everybody hugging and celebrating, and they're just like, what the hell's going on? So I'm just like, these bitches really fought even less than 3 minutes, because Tesehki and Scarface had enough time to get their little situation settled. Like, bro, the bullshit that they do on this show. Moving on next to Automac and DJ Sky. Now it's their turn to talk. And since DJ Sky doesn't want to say it, I'm just going to come out and say that she probably did get paid extra to fight Anna from Zeus. And she probably was trying to get back on Krishan's good side. So she was just basically killing two birds with one stone. And that's why I think that she fought Anna. So not to spend too much time on DJ Sky, because I really don't want to talk about her. Her and Anna end up hugging it out after DJ Sky apologizes to her, because she really had no reason to fight Anna, let alone sneak the girl when she was talking to somebody else. We also have Suki and Sapphire hugging Smiley, and T and Scarface are also hugging. Everybody's just hugging now, but you can see it in T's face and her body language that she didn't really want to hug Scarface. I feel like she just kind of did it to go along with everybody else in the moment that is happy and celebrating and in good spirits, because T is still in her confessionals shit talking Scarface. But as you can see, when the girls head inside and some of them are eating, T is nowhere to be found. She has already dipped and left, and so did DJ Sky. So everybody else is gathered in this living room, and there's one big happy family until Natalie, of course, has to stir up trouble and tells Scotty to go apologize to Anna. And of course, Scotty is like, I'm not apologizing. Of course, Anna is like, I'm not apologizing. So the two start arguing, but Natalie sends them to go argue in the kitchen. Now, I'm already over these two, but I guess the beef started with Scotty calling Anna Mac a little boy in her comment section. And I'm just like, both of y'all look like little boys, especially Anna Mac with her long face and her long back. And if Anna Mac is a little boy, then Scotty has to be the older brother. The girl is not even a stallion. She is just a giraffe. And you know how they say that giraffes aren't the smartest animals? That's Scotty to me. Because Scotty starts looking around for stuff to throw at Anna Mac because she knows that she can't fight. And then she says that she doesn't want to keep arguing with Anna Mac because she doesn't have good comebacks. And this is why I say Scotty doesn't belong on the show and that she's not good for anything. And I'm glad that she said it herself, so it doesn't seem like I'm like just picking on this girl constantly. And I don't even know if security got special order from Lemmy to not let Scotty fight, or maybe they just don't like Scotty either, because every time this girl moves or every time she picks up something to throw, security is always on her ass, which when you think about it, you know Scotty's not going to do any damage to Anna, so you would think that security would be on Anna's ass, but no, Anna always has free will to walk around in the kitchen, and she even picks up the McDonald's that was sitting on the counter, which you know just had to be security's lunch, so I feel so bad for them, and throws it at Scotty. And I'm just really like, these two are having a food fight in the kitchen. I'm telling y'all, these two are just little boys. And as you hear Rollie and Biggie's argument that had already started since Anna Mac and Scotty left the living room, you can hear their arguments start getting louder. Natalie notices and starts running to the living room. So basically, Biggie is trying to figure out why Rollie all of a sudden last season switched up on her and started treating her really bad. Because according to Biggie, Rollie was already treating her bad before the stunner situation even happened. And then Rollie's gonna say that Biggie had asked her to be a duo, which if I had to pick somebody to believe, I believe Biggie more, because Rollie does tend to lie, and sometimes I feel like it's so scary because I feel like she doesn't realize that she's lying. I feel like she just rewrites the story in her head and starts to believe it. So I feel like Rollie just read it in the comments, because I do remember reading some comments saying that the fans wanted Rollie and Biggie to be the fat girl duo in the house. And another reason why I don't see Biggie asking to be a duo is because the girl has enough personality to stand on her own. She also already knows how to style herself and style her hair and her makeup. So there was just nothing that she could have learned from Rollie, because Rollie doesn't necessarily style as good as Biggie or has a look that people would kind of inspire to look like. I hope I'm making sense, but like basically Biggie is loud enough to roll by herself. And then Biggie lets it be known that Rollie told her that she wanted to hear her moan. Like, this is too much for me. And you can tell that that is true because Rollie just shut up. From there on out, she just shut up. Rollie didn't know what to say. She just froze. I don't know how you come back from that, but Rollie, anyway, started to walk away and go up the stairs. And then it's moments like this that just makes me love Biggie even more. Because then she's going to go on to say that Rollie is just jealous that she is not the prettiest fat girl on Zeus. And I just love the way that Biggie screams envidia, which if you guys don't know, that means envy in Spanish. I really think that Biggie should make some merch with envidia written on it. Biggie, please feel free to take my idea and I will be your first customer. So now that Rollie went upstairs, Biggie then turns her anger towards Natalie, because Biggie is, I guess, the only one with enough brains to realize that Natalie is the common denominator for all the problems that the girls have with each other. Plus, Biggie has also been noticing the shade that Natalie and production have been throwing at Biggie. And it's not only just Biggie, it's like the entire House B as well. But Biggie lets it be known that she is upset that she wasn't allowed to ride on the private jet because she is an OG. And if the private jet was supposedly to be for the OGs, then Scarface had no business being on it. But honestly, we have a lot of OGs this cast, whether it's Zeus Network or OGs or Love and Hip Hop OGs or Bad Girls Club OGs. Like, honestly, all of you guys wouldn't have been able to fit in the same plane. So honestly, Zeus could have gotten either two planes or just made all of you ride the same tour bus like last season. And so I'm very disappointed with Camilla in her confessionals when she says that Biggie needs to shut up, because Camilla, like, you're an OG too. So the same bad treatment that Biggie is getting and that she's complaining about, like, you're getting too. You and Sky. So I definitely don't feel like it was appropriate for you two girls to start singing along with Rollie when she started singing Balling. Like, it also doesn't apply to you girls. So Biggie is just saying how all of you feel. And I can't believe that Sky even tried to square up with Biggie after that, because you were the same person asking her to make you some shrimp when we get to New York. So now you're not getting any shrimp. And you were just talking about how caring Biggie is as a person. And never mind the fact that this whole season you have been acting kind of like an auntie or like a mentor figure to these girls after they get into their fights and their arguments, but now you can't do that for Biggie. Like, this whole situation is just weird. I don't like how the girls are ganging up on Biggie like she is the problem and she is the annoying one, when it's clearly Scarface. And then this girl still had the audacity to push Biggie on the couch. And I really, really hate how my man Chris, right here, the security guard, continues to stand in front of Biggie and keeps holding her down. Because I was like, Biggie, come on, like, get up, girl. Go get up and hit her. And I even heard a crack in Biggie's voice, and it kind of sounded like she was about to cry, but the camera wasn't on her at this moment, so I don't really know whether she was crying or not. But I can just imagine the feeling of everybody ganging up on you when you're trying to voice your opinion and voice your feelings, especially when they have the same feelings that you do. And then Scarface just keeps screaming at Biggie, telling her to shut up because she has a headache. But honestly, if you had a headache, you could have just left the room. You could have followed Rollie when she went upstairs, because that's what you've been doing this whole season. And you don't have to jump into Rollie's fights. Rollie can defend herself and handle her own fights. And even the fact that Rollie had to pull Scarface away by her hoodie like she was a dog on a leash was just hilarious to me. I cannot believe that nobody came to Biggie's defense here. And I think that from here on out, it's going to be Biggie versus Scarface the whole time, which I can't wait to see. So moving on to the next day, Smiley FaceTimes Natalie asking for her chain back, which I'm just like, girl, calling Natalie of all people, she's not going to help you. I think you would have better luck calling up Lemmy and asking him to take the cost of that chain out of Mariah Lynn's check and give it to you. But even then, that's not likely. So Mariah walks in and hears the conversation and tells Smiley that she gave the chain to her sister because this whole beef between them started when Smiley attacked Mariah's sister at the auditions. I'm happy that we're going to get a cameo from Mariah Lynn's sister later, but I still feel like, Mariah, you should have been brought your sister so both of you could get together and jump Smiley together for your chain. Next, we have T showing up at House B, and the girls are basically filling her in on what she missed from the day before. T asks who in the house was closest to Smiley, and Tesehki's gonna say that it wasn't her, that Smiley just clinged to her, but it's like, you also let her cling to you, knowing the type of person that she is with all the lying and all the scamming. That's not somebody that I would let cling to me. And y'all did look pretty close on camera, so I understand why people are calling you fake for now switching up on Smiley like that. But you did have to share a room with the girl, so I understand like why you didn't feel the need to be hostile to her, because you spent the most time with her. Next, we have Biggie and Camilla pressing Smiley about having to basically beg her to defend herself against Sapphire. But it's pretty clear at this point, Smiley didn't want to fight. She only wants one thing, which is to be on the show, to be somewhat famous and known. And she probably thought that production was going to be on her side, since they already have been, as I suspect, basically helping her stalk the girls before the show even started filming and help her get on the show, as long as she did whatever they told her to do. And then Biggie talks about how she already peeped that Scarface was about to jump in when she was arguing with Rollie, which I believe, because that's literally the same thing that she did to T when T was talking to Rollie at the race car driving place. Next, we cut to Rollie, Scarface, and Sapphire. And here we have Rollie and Scarface basically just lying to themselves, as if everything that they have been doing hasn't been caught on camera. Like, it is just so scary how people can turn their brains off and lie to themselves the way that these two do. But Rollie says that she would never say that she is prettier than somebody else and that all women are beautiful. But we heard the comment that you said to T when you said that she thought that she was pretty and effable. And then she's going to go ahead and call Biggie insecure. I have no comment. And then Scarface is gonna say that she uplifts other women. She couldn't even say that with a straight face. We also learned that Sapphire broke 2 fingers on Smiley. I don't know what's up with all these girls always breaking their fingers when they get into fights. Maybe try closing your hands and stop trying to hit and snatch wigs off and all that stuff. But Sapphire lets us know that Suki has a booking, so that is why Sukiana is not there. And it is Sapphire saying this that I'm starting to get the feeling that she is trying to set herself up to be on the show by herself and possibly next season, because she ends her confessionals by saying that she sees herself getting along with some of the girls. So I would not be surprised if Sapphire returns next season. And it is about time that she works on an identity for herself other than being Sukiana's best friend. Skipping ahead to the Baddies Bluntz pop-up shop. First of all, this merch just looks so low budget. It's literally some generic lighter in some generic container with the Baddies Bluntz logo printed on it. We also find out that Rollie is the brand ambassador for the Baddies Bluntz, which I guess makes sense. I don't think anybody else in the house smokes a blunt before they brush their teeth in the morning. And then we get the moment where House B is pulling up and they're trying to fit it into the club, but they can't because it's so packed. Scotty is going to take the mic from Natalie and say that those bitches don't need to get in. And you just see Natalie trying her best to pull the mic away from Scotty when she realizes what Scotty is saying. And you could tell Natalie is so pissed off with Scotty in this moment because she said beforehand that she didn't want any drama at her event. Next, the girls are on their way to the club. On the bus, Natalie does a deodorant check, basically saying that all the girls are just hella musty right now. And I just thought that it was really funny that Rollie goes to smell her armpit and then says, "Nope, I don't have any BO." I have been trying to figure out for the longest time whether or not Rollie stinks, because I just can't believe that all these girls would be riding the bus with her and just be around her if she smells that bad and not say anything to her. But clearly she doesn't shower before going out to the club, so I'm leaning towards more, yes, she does smell. So as they pull up to the club, Scarface is gonna say that a fan hit her in the back of the head, allegedly, and I say allegedly because you can hear the fan. He's holding his heels and he says, "I have my lady heels in my hand." And in his other hand, he has his phone. So I don't think that there was a point where he freed up a hand to smack Scarface in the back of the head. And then as it turns out, I just love that the fan turns out to be a Biggie fan and he doesn't know who Scarface is. And I just love this guy because he's basically the fan base of Baddies in a nutshell. Now Scarface is going to go on and say that she thinks Biggie set her up to get hit by this fan, but the guy, he was just a fan. I don't think that there was any personal connection that he had with Biggie. So once inside the club, at this point, security doesn't even try to hide it. Mariah goes and gets her sister Strawberry, but for some reason they gave her her government name on the show, Veronica. So security basically is clearing the way and escorting Veronica straight to Smiley. And this is where the episode ends. Honestly, we don't even get to see the fight in the previews. And I feel like this is why Smiley didn't dress up. I know she tried to play it off as if she didn't know that they were heading out to the club and to the Baddies Bluntz event. But I don't know, I feel like she's lying. I feel like she did know, because even if you were peeping at what the other girls in your house were wearing, you would know that they're dressed up pretty nice and you guys go to the club almost every night. So why would tonight be any different? I don't know. So I don't believe her. I feel like she wore her gym clothes on purpose because she knew that she was gonna have to fight Veronica, because Mariah let her know beforehand anyways. So I don't have much hope that this fight is going to be good. And plus, both of them are just kind of grabbing each other by the hair and pulling each other down to the ground. So if this is all that we get to see from Mariah Lynn's sister, I could have done without it. Now for the previews for next episode, we get Smiley versus Mariah round 123 at this point, but this time they're fighting because Smiley is threatening to have Mariah Lynn's family followed. Next, we have Natalie evicting Smiley and Biggie, but it seems like they're in House B, so I don't know exactly where she's evicting them to. Yeah, this looks like House B if I'm not mistaken. House A is more white and gray, and I think House B has the orange and brown walls. And on a side note, I'm really feeling this look that Natalie is giving. I love this blonde with the bangs on her, and her makeup also looks really good. Next, we have Scarface about to throw Biggie's purse down the stairs. So Biggie had to clock her in the face real quick, but either way, I feel like it would have been fine because you can see my man Chris at the bottom of the staircase ready to catch Biggie's purse. And I think my camera just died, so that's it for this week. I will see you for episode 13. And until then, take care of yourselves. Bye.